Sundar Pichai was paid $281 million in 2019. Of course, there are founder CEOs and hedge fund managers who blow that number out of the water. The one significant difference between these high earners and Sundar is that Sundar did not establish his own company. Sundar did not join Google until 2004, and when he did, he was only a manager. Sundar also didn't come to the US with any high-level connections or a lot of money. Sundar actually began at the bottom and worked his way to the top of the corporate ladder. So, in this video, we will cover how Sundar Pichai left from nothing to become the world's highest-paid employee. Looking back, Sundar was born in Chennai, India on June 10, 1972. His father was a stenographer, while his mother was an electrical engineer. The family did not appear to have any major financial issues, but they were far from wealthy. Sundar and his brother slept in the living room because the family lived in a modest two-room apartment. Though Sundar's upbringing wasn't particularly advantageous, his intellect would be extremely beneficial. Sundar was incredibly clever from a young age, with one of his most prominent features being his incredible memory. Sundar apparently remembered every single number he phoned on their home rotary phone. Given this, it's hardly surprising that Sundar attended the Indian Institute of Technology, where he studied metallurgical engineering. Sundar received a master's degree in engineering and material science from Stanford after graduating from IIT. He didn't stop there either. Sundar turned around and applied for a PhD at Stanford, but he quickly realized that obtaining work experience was probably a better idea. So in the late 1990s, he dropped out of his doctoral school and took a position as an engineering manager at Applied Materials. He didn't stay at Applied Materials for long though, and soon moved on to McKinsey & Company. Sundar decided around the same time that having an MBA would help his career. As a result, he'd wind up attending the Wharton School of Business and earning an MBA. Sundar would get hired by Google in 2004, joining the company as a product manager. He was overlooking Google's search toolbar development, which was a major development for Google. At that time, Internet Explorer was the most popular search engine, and in 2006, Microsoft decided to make Bing the default search engine in Internet Explorer. But however, since most users already had the Google search toolbar installed, that minimized the effect of Microsoft's decision. This experience made Sundar realize how dependent Google was on Microsoft. If Microsoft had made this decision a few years ago, Google may not have become so popular in the first place. Sundar would recommend developing a browser in order to limit this type of risk in the future. Most of the managers and executives above him were opposed to the proposal. Sure, owning a popular browser would give Google a significant advantage, but it appeared that it was just too late to enter the browser game. Internet Explorer was released nearly a decade ago, while Safari and Firefox had been available for several years. As a result, much of Google's management did not believe that developing a browser was a realistic option. However, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, understood that Google's success never came from being first. They were 8 years late to search engines and 33 years late to the email scene. In fact, when they purchased YouTube, it was not even the first video sharing platform. The first video sharing network, ShareYourWorld.com, was launched in 1997, whereas YouTube did not launch until 2005. So evidently, Google was never the first on scene. However, given Google's early success, Larry and Sergey knew that being first didn't always guarantee a product or service's success. So, Larry and Sergey persuaded Sundar to try out the browser. Sundar and his team planned to build Google Chrome over the next 5 years with a few key goals in mind. The first goal was to create an unbeatable user interface. Google has already established itself as the cool kid on the block. They provided greater storage, more services, and superior user experience than their competitors. As a result, Chrome must meet these customer expectations. Fortunately for Sundar, this wasn't too hard because Internet Explorer at the time was somewhat clunky. Sundar's primary focus, though, was not the UI. He understood that Chrome needed to be a developer favorite in order to have long-term sustainable success. Sundar opted to let developers show him what they liked using Chromium, rather than try to assume what web developers loved. Chromium is a web browser that was released as open source in September of 2008. Sundar's team was able to easily incorporate feedback from engineers all across the world, which resulted in Google Chrome being incredibly stable and speedy. When you combine this with a considerably superior user interface, most people found switching to Chrome to be a no-brainer. Despite the popularity of Chrome, Sundar never confined himself to a single project. He was also creating the groundwork for other essential products in the background. Google Drive was one of these ventures. Google had previously entered the office product arena with the release of Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides in 2006. While these products were not as feature-rich as Microsoft's offerings, they were free, which drew a significant number of casual users. Google purchased Docverse, a startup that allows several users to collaborate on documents, in 2010. While this was a fascinating concept, the execution was flawed. Sundar, on the other hand, had the ideal solution: Google Drive. Instead of storing files locally, Google Drive enabled users to store their files on Google's data centers, making it possible to collaborate as well as access these files from anywhere in the globe. Sundar, like Google Chrome, did not invent the cloud in any way. His execution, on the other hand, was flawless. That brings us to his third most significant contribution: Chrome OS. Chrome OS, once again, was not a unique concept. In reality, Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, was working on something similar called the network computer in the late 1990s. However, Larry found it incredibly difficult to achieve market traction because he was just targeting all PC users looking for a cheaper system. Sundar, on the other hand, targeted a super niche market: students and casual users. Chrome OS did not attempt to compete with Windows or Mac OS. Without a doubt, Windows and Mac OS are significantly superior for important activities. However, this is Chrome OS's greatest strength. Chrome OS was able to nail the simple chores for an amazing price by simply focusing on simple computer tasks and leaving the significant duties to Windows and Mac. And this has shown itself to be incredibly appealing to a specific group of buyers. Sundar was elevated to Senior Vice President of Chrome and Apps in 2012, due to all of his significant contributions to Google. In 2013, Andy Rubin, the creator of Android, left Google, and Larry Page gave Sundar the responsibility for leading the Android division as well. Sundar's most significant contribution to Android was Android One, which dramatically reduced the cost of entry-level devices. Sundar also helped to integrate Android into Google. Before Sundar took control, Android was a distinct business that was simply owned by Google. Sundar's impact at Google grew slowly but steadily year after year until he was appointed product chief in October of 2014. While this is a high-level position, several other companies were offering Sundar even higher-level roles. Some speculations circulated in 2015 that Twitter was looking to hire Sundar as CEO. In addition, it appears that Microsoft was seriously considering recruiting Sundar as CEO in 2014 after Steve Ballmer had retired from Microsoft. Despite these tempting offers, Sundar chose to stay at Google, which would prove to be a wise decision. Larry Page and Sergey Brin decided to leave Google in August of 2015. They founded a new holding company called Alphabet and rose to the position of Alphabet's CEO. Sundar was promoted to Google's CEO in the meantime. At this point, he was essentially the CEO of the entire company, with Larry and Sergey serving as chairman. However, this would become official at the end of 2019, when Larry and Sergey stepped down from Alphabet, raising Sundar to CEO. And given that Google stock has increased by more than 260% in the last 5 years, it's hardly unexpected that Sundar has received such enormous compensation. So, what can we learn about Sundar's unstoppable rise to the top? Sundar has achieved phenomenal success through unparalleled execution. He did not invent browsers, the cloud, smartphones, or even a company. Sundar, on the other hand, was able to bring every product he worked on to life better than the competition, whether it was through the user interface, the cost to the consumer, or the connectivity with Google's other products. Sundar has demonstrated that being the best doesn't require being the first. And considering that this was essentially the foundation for Google as a whole, it makes sense that he is the one driving the company, Comment down below and like if you found this video entertaining. Also subscribe to get more intriguing stories and help grow our community.